Well, 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 it's that time yet again to do a live stream. Hi, chat. Welcome on in. Hope you're doing good. Today is a little bit of a different day because we're doing a little bit of an interview. So, over the past year, we have seen a major shift within the gaming industry. With the start of Gamergate 2, there has been an increase in developers making their stances known. A lot have decided to go down with the, treat your customers badly route, while others have decided to embrace people that make their products succeed and ultimately decide to make games as amazing as possible. And they've proven that they want to listen to us. And that brings me to a person who isn't really that afraid to make his thoughts on the industry known and listen to what his customers want. And that is the CI Games CEO. Hello, hello.
Hi, Vera. Hi, everyone.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
Doing good. Very happy that we're having this discussion. There's been a lot of talk about you over the past couple of weeks in Lords of the Fallen, a game that, chat, by the way, I did enjoy. I did stream it. I had a good time with it. It was scary. As my chat knows, the potato head bosses, the rocks that chase you around. I hated those.
Listen, thanks for the invite. I'm really excited to be here together with you and speak and share more on what we do and what's important, what's really happening in the industry. And yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here. So, for the people in chat who might not know you, why don't you give a little bit of an introduction?
Right. So I'm one of the founders of CI Games. So we found the company in 2002, and I've been running the business. I've been running the company since the very beginning. So from 2002 until now, and yeah, the company basically, yeah, it's just a long time and a huge development from where we started to where we are right now. From the company that was primarily a company based in Poland with almost everyone working out of studios in Poland to the company that is really very global in terms of our talent and most of our people are especially in the development, are in the western part of Europe, in the southern part of Europe. So it's a big mix of cultures and hugely diverse and yeah, the diverse team. I'm very happy where we are.
Yeah. I've been a big fan for many years, and I know plenty of people in chat are as well. There are a lot of companies right now that, are succeeding, that are thriving. Others, believe me, everybody knows that are not. How are things going for the Lords of the Fallen team? And I'm not necessarily just saying business wise, but also culture wise. How is everybody in the team doing?
So I mean, it's really doing. I mean, we're doing well. I mean, we had the last launch in 2023. That was obviously Lords of the Fallen back in October, and since that time, we work hard improving some of the issues we had with the previous game, and so far I think we have over 50 updates to Lords of the Fallen launch in 2023,
It's a
and
lot.
it's a lot, yeah. And we're still going, and we're still going. We have some really important updates to come in the next couple of months, and V 2.0 coming in March, and from pretty much from somehow beginning of last year, we started to work on the next game, the next Lords of the Fallen, and the full production on that title has been pretty much over. Yeah, it's been since pretty much pre-summer last year.
Yeah. I remember reading last year that I believe that these were just reports. I don't think that they were ever confirmed, but potential Epic exclusivity for the sequel for PC.
Yes,
I don't know if you can confirm
yes,
that.
yes, absolutely. So I can confirm Epic is our exclusive partner for the PC version of the game, and we we really appreciate working that close with Epic, and I believe we can have a better game coming out of that. And there's a lot of support from these guys, and we work close. And obviously, we use Unreal Engine 5, and it's a very advanced technology, and it's kind of new. It's still very new, and I think, I think this is for the benefit of players, and not just on the PC platform, but it's a benefit for everyone on all platforms that the game will be available. So really looking forward to that.
I know people are kind of mixed on platform exclusivity. Is there like a specific reason you decide to go with Epic? Have you worked closely with them before?
So yeah, so look, I mean, on one side, we were very close to them by having that relationship, that business relationship.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Epic, they have had, and they have quite a lot of other exclusive games, and usually in this industry, and we said that, we made it public once we signed the contract, that there's also certain advance, certain fee that they would be paying to us, or they've been paying to us before the game is launched. So that is also really helpful from the standpoint of financing part of the development of that game.
Yeah, I understand. What to ask you next? Because there's just so much to talk about because we have Lords of the Fallen to discuss, and maybe we'll just get right into I know what a lot of people are here for. Recently, of course, there have been so many people talking about the game, and a big reason why is because of the statement that you made, committing yourself, well, you and the team committing yourselves to just making great products first and dropping any sort of DEI commitments. Now, right off the bat, there was a little bit of a mixed reaction because I felt like a lot of gamers were very happy to hear this, but the mainstream media, in fact, was a little bit upset that this happened. I'm not very surprised, and I'm sure many other people aren't, but to quote PC Gamer, they said that you have had you were embracing fear of the DEI boogeyman and that you've done this to stir up lizard brain emotions on the way to generating views, which of course is ridiculous. But is there any worry that you guys are now like a target by the mainstream media?
So Vera, if you don't mind, let me give a bit more light on how that
Yeah.
started with that article and a couple of other articles, and
Yeah, of
basically
course.
just and I'm like I'm happy to answer that question. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, yeah.
I think just for everyone to be at the same page here. Look, uh, we had I mean, we are listed. We are a publicly listed company in Warsaw Stock Exchange. So obviously, we reporting to investors, and we like one of the events, that was the last event, that was investor chat. So we had investor chat with probably almost all Polish investors, and that chat was in English. As I had also Tom, who is the senior VP of development, and Ryan, who is the head of brand and marketing. So that chat was for investors, and I think it was like 400 people live on that chat, and then probably total of 1,000 investors read that chat. Obviously, we always having those statistics. I think that chat was early January. That chat was, I think, Wednesday, and then Friday, end of the day, our
Yeah.
time in Europe. We saw those articles, and it was disappointing because it's not what we meant, and we didn't try to make it like a public statement. And but then I saw also someone on X, Pirate Nation, saying like,
Mm,
we are dropping DI from our games. I mean, we never really had that much of DI. I mean, we
yeah.
probably want to go later to that, but and I said, exactly, that's what we will do. Whatever words I used on that tweet, and that got super viral. And I saw a lot of really great positive comments around that, but also quite a lot of negative, and like some of them really nasty. Which I've been watching in social media for 20 years circa, so I'm aware of that and used to that. But it kind
Yeah.
of like it didn't really make sense from the racial standpoint, because what like we've seen, we see things, we use different tools, we have a lot of data, right, coming from
Yeah.
not only our products, but from other products, so we see what's happening. And then somebody said, okay, what about those body types? why you have them? And I responded, let me look into that. And then I decided, like, why don't we make the poll? Because we understand that this is not what people want, but like, let's make the poll on X. That is a huge channel. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, right? And we did that, and we saw the numbers, almost 50,000 votes, and almost 90% wanted to have male and female. And once I had that poll, I said that we would follow whatever the results would be, and that's what we did. And we just didn't do it on the next game that we will have next year, but we also did that on the game that we launched in 2023. And I think it was fair to, and we wanted to show the commitment to people that we really actually doing that, because we believe this is the right thing to do, and we're just not asking. And like, again, like, that was a bit disappointing, but that just all happened kind of organic. I think for the benefit of our company, for our studio, but also I think for the benefit of a lot of other studios that I can imagine will follow that. And but it was never an easy decision. And I heard different stories, like, don't do it, and all the consequences and risks and all stuff. And we made it. I think we made it, and all of that, they were right decisions.
Yeah.
And I don't know about the media you asked, because, like, I think, look, media should write about games, and and just focus on games. And I think and everybody is in some sort of a business here, right? And their business is writing about games, and writing about games that their audiences wanted to hear and read. And I think no matter what we do, and how much we'll go into players first approach and declare and dropping DEI from our games, we have to still deliver great games in the future.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
next one is Lords of the Fallen, the next Lords of the Fallen. And like, in our focus is absolutely on that. And I believe that when we have a great product coming next year, we will have also traditional media, like digital media, willing to write about it and speak about it, because the game will speak for itself. And and I hope also that political approach that part of the market has will also shift within the next year and a half.
Yeah,
I hope.
definitely. Well, hopefully. And it's like you said, the media should be writing about video games. Imagine that. That's your profession. But then they don't like to do that. It's like, oh man, I have to write about video games today. That sucks. And that is definitely a mentality. But, talking about body type A and B, obviously there's kind of a string of questions there, but was there a specific reason that you know of that body type A and B was initially chosen? Was it a team decision? Was it just kind of not something that was really thought about too much? Or was it really, then intentional or?
No, it was intentional. And that decision was made a couple of years ago. And, like, the industry a couple of years ago was an industry that, like, you would want to be DI in terms of at least having some values around that, like, coming from DI, and just to be able to be more attractive to talent.
Yeah.
And like, and that's connected, right? And at the same time, that was the industry standard. Body type A and B was the industry standard around games, Souls-like games, or Souls games, right? So it was like, yeah, I mean, probably we don't like that. Also, we didn't like it the most, but that was the industry standard. And if you do something different, then that meant risk, or maybe substantial risk, because there was this outside industry, outside of our organization, that would kind of like, no, just stay there, right? And like, that's what is expected from you, Mr. Developer. I mean, not just speaking about us. And I think you build a studio, you build this project from the start, from the scratch, from zero, people being on the project with a little bit of things that you bring into that. And I think, like, it's normal, you want to reduce risks, and especially in the environment that was that kind of like having that sort of a social pressure on it. So you don't want to pick up battles where you don't need to pick up battles, right? And I think that was the thing. And then obviously later on, I mean, the situation has drastically started to change a year and a half ago. And, like in regards to DI, and I think if you look at even the last poll, that is a strong demonstration what people want. And from the time standpoint, it was a mistake. You could say it was a mistake, but like it's hard to say it was just pure mistake because of the reasons I said, right? But like we believe, the industry is different, at least to a degree different than it was,
Yeah.
and it's the right time to make that change and give players what they want. And I think that's why we did that, right? And we will stick to that on next projects as well. But again, like just to be fair, because it's a very sensitive topic, right?
Oh,
DI is a
yeah,
very sensitive topic,
it is.
especially like us. We have very diverse teams. Like I explained you, we have people in different countries all around Europe, most of them in the Western Europe, in the Southern Europe, and they are, different races, different sexual orientations. So we've been always very welcome for people to come as they are and who they want to be, and just feel free to be themselves when they're working for the company. And we absolutely were always committed to that, and we are absolutely committed to that now as well. We
Yeah.
always, in reality, we always was a company that had that best talent policy. So if you look at that, in which we dropped that DEI value related, from our values that we had, and we use them when we're hiring, and then like people know that we are authentic who are working for us. They feel that we are, and they see that. We dropped that in October last year, and that was before the US election. So, and especially from
Yes.
the European standpoint, it didn't look like Trump could win, like from the European standpoint, when we are in Europe, right? And we did that because we strongly believe that's the right thing to do, and say that and be proud of being best talent, and speak
Yes.
and say that out loud. So, and the same goes to players first. Like, just to be clear, we updated our strategy back in September 2024, where when we said that player first approach is absolutely our key strategic kind of like core pillar, and we'll do everything and we'll be fully committed to that. And that players first is not just related to not pushing political and social agendas into games. It's so much more about that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I completely understand what you're saying because I've always said this. I think the best person for the job should get their job. People should be hired based on merits and experience. And that is something that, not to get into talking about too many other companies, maybe isn't so much of a focus anymore. There's a lot of juniors being hired in the industry, which I do think is good. It does come down to them trying to foster different environments within companies because look at like Rockstar, they were kind of canceled a few years ago because of a frat boy, culture within the company. Same with Blizzard. I know that the memes online have been pretty crazy, but I do agree that a good company has all different types of people working for them with all different opinions. And I do think that that is good because if you can just make a good game and you are passionate, that's why you should get hired because you're good at what you're doing. And I think that a lot of people within the industry, unfortunately, it's hard for them to understand that that is not an issue for a lot of gamers. We've been talking about a lot about the Lords of the Fallen over the past couple of weeks, me and my, fellow content creators, just because you're putting a player approach first. But it is interesting to hear, you also say that, yeah, I mean, you want all different sorts of people to be making games and buying games, and that's just how the
It's just
industry is.
100%.
Yeah, definitely. And by the way, yes, I know chat. Bilbo the cat is in here. I didn't realize everybody's talking about him, but you mentioned about industry standards with male and female versus A and B because you did say the industry standard now is kind of to go to A and B, but it used to be male and female. When do you think that shift really happened, or why do you think that happened? Is it maybe just because it was more attractive to investors, or is it because of ESRBs and rating boards? Because I know that that is also a big question that maybe you'll have a little bit more insight into.
I think this is basically happening because of, like that was part of a bigger cultural shift.
Yeah,
And I think like it's just being part of that, right?
yeah,
And pushing, social and political agendas, through video games. Video games probably one of the best medium to do that if this is your agenda, right? And that's political, right? And just to be clear, like people saying, oh, but that's political of now changing body type A and B to male and female. I think yes, it is political, but only to those who are considering pushing social and political agendas to games. To them, it's political, but to everyone else, to vast majority of people, there's nothing about politics. It's just going for what really people ask. And again, like before I give you a bit more on the industry, what I believe it was and how that changed over time, like think about from the standpoint of, players, how, like a majority or a huge amount of players, and, people to call it ocean of comments, just one of the indicators, right? But there's more, right? And we have tools to measure sentiment, simple tools, and you can see, product by product, game by game, how people talk, and like what's the sentiment, right? And
right.
how the sentiment is changing. And look, I mean, people, players, feel frustrated. They feel marginalized. They want to play games in their favorite franchises, but they cannot get those games the way that they would like to play them. And and at the same time, you have that, some publishers saying, yeah, but we are doing a lot of research, we're listening to players. But then, the question is, I believe they do,
Yeah,
like not speaking about everyone, but just like, just different companies in the industry, no names. I believe they do listen to players, but the question is how selectively they listen to players. Are they listening like and just asking, hey, how about the combat? How about this? But they're not listening to, and how about the narrative? How about the characters? And then they get the feedback from 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 their communities on what they're asking, but they're not, having the feedback across the board. And then, like that's kind of like a dispersion uh, between, why people are not happy, and that's what we don't want to have for us players. First is a kind of a, like 360 is the whole thing. And like I said, it's, like the values, the diverse teams, super important, but a very clear cut between the editorial decisions, and the editorial decisions going to each game are purely based on what really we believe is best, and we're checking that frequently with our communities. And
yeah.
then going to the industry, just let me answer.
Oh
Sorry
yeah,
to take it
of
a
course.
bit
No,
longer,
no, of
Sarah,
course.
but look, the industry, I remember 10, 15 years ago, and 20, it was like, let's make cool things. Let's make
Yeah,
things that are the coolest things we can have out of, any given game, right? And then some ideas were good, some ideas were great, some ideas were not so good, right? But it was kind of like, let's make something great, outstanding, cool. And I think that started to shift, and not with every game and not with every publisher, but it started to shift 5, 8 years ago, that towards more of that kind of like, probably too much of that social and political things going to games. And like
yeah,
someone said, and I reposted that amplification, and some of the characters you can clearly see. And again, I had another poll about that, and you can clearly
yeah,
see people want to have attractive, lead characters. Vast majority, they want that. So what happened, that you know some of the games that haven't had it. I think this is just like just another demonstration that there is some agenda, and we should leave. Politics should not be part of video games, and we have to focus like on making best games we can. And I'm not saying we will make the best game next year. I mean, what I can be committed to is that we'll try to do the best that we can with our
yeah.
teams, right? And like, but that should be the focus and not something else.
Yeah, no, I mean, I obviously completely agree. I want developers to be able to create what they want, but I can also understand that, like you mentioned, you've done 50 plus updates to 2023 Lords of the Fallen, and that is a really great thing. And nothing is going, at least in my opinion, especially with the way the industry is now, we don't expect everything to be 100% perfect, but as close to it as possible. And I think that it is really great that you are trying to listen to what gamers want, and you're trying to ultimately do your best by your team and your product and also your customer base. And the polls that you've been putting up recently have really shown what gamers want and what your audience wants. Do you think that more studios will actually end up adopting that mentality in the coming years, like asking gamers directly what they want via polls? Or do you think that there's that might not actually happen, and it might just be the few rare, really passionate studios?
Look, so I don't know 100%, right? But I can tell you a bit of the histories, that maybe explains a bit on that. So, and I use certain language because I think it's right to use that language with everything what we are talking. And like I said, we've been running a business. I've been running a
Yeah,
business,
yeah,
and video gaming company studios are businesses. And a bit of a history. 20 years ago, uh, I would say, like it was a passe for developers to say that they are, thinking about business. It was just thinking about great games, but also projects were much smaller and cost much less, and the industry was much less competitive, and that worked, and like publishers were keen to finance that, and probably large publishers were much more commercial at the time, but there were a lot of that kind of, it's passe to say we're there for money. And I mean, but today, I mean, we can't be really naive. The thing is that you have to be commercially minded. I mean, the industry is in a it's a tough situation, right? It's you've a lot of studio closures, uh, layoffs, and restructurings, optimizations, and I think it's a tough time, and games are much more expensive to make, and it's much more competitive uh, industry. So you have to be very commercially minded first to survive, and then to be able to succeed in the future, right? And I think that's it here. And I think if you like, I'm not saying that there's no way to do games with political and social agendas in it. I think there is a way to do it. I think the risk is much higher, and I don't think that you will get reward for that higher risk. And I think if it's true, it's the opposite. So like if somebody wants to do it, and I mean, if it's paid by any kind of a government grants or stuff, I can understand that. But we are not there because we don't want to increase the risk, and the risk is already very high.
yeah.
So you don't want to increase that, and you want to really uh, have a chance to get with the next game, to for the game to be profitable and get to the next one, as opposed to thinking like, okay, I mean, like let's face it, you had a lot of strategic investors, big industry players, putting a lot of money in the last 5-10 years, and a lot of those investments didn't work. And
Yeah.
those strategic investors are also very selective, very careful, and not keen to invest the way they invested. So you really kind of like on your own as a gaming studio, and you basically your destiny is in your hands. So you have to do everything possible to get to the next game, to make it successful, and get to the next game. And you have to be very commercially minded to do it. Otherwise, you just kind of like it's just ahead of your demise, and it's just a question of time.
Yeah, definitely. And the polls have been pretty successful. Did you feel surprised at all with the overwhelming response? Because I mean, the first poll got over 50,000 votes. Were you expecting it to be like, oh, maybe a couple thousand? Or were you, you know, being like, yeah, clearly people are going to voice how they feel and show up in droves? Like, did you really expect that much of a turnout?
No, I didn't expect that much. So it was really a positive surprise to have that sort of response. So again, thank you everyone who was part of that. I mean, to help that to happen, I think, that is a clear demonstration of, what really players want. And, you can say, oh, but it's not on X, you don't have it on X. And I heard all the different arguments, and I heard all this kind of, people trying to activists trying to twist the narrative to whatever, we go where the wind blows, which is, I already explained, it's not the case. We started that way ahead of, the elections, and and I think, we've been very consistent with that. Or, we want to be, someone used the term performative, and like, and think, you just, have to think about the business and really run the studio in the most responsible way. Because, like, again, the message here is, you want to make the studio being sustainable, and you
Yeah.
want to make games in the next 5 to 10 years and more, then you really have to think about your decisions and the consequences to that decision. Like, look, I'm not the game designer. We have great teams and great bunch of guys who are working on that. So, as a CEO, my responsibility is to drive the company to the best future it can have, and it's tough.
Yeah. No, I believe me. I definitely understand, because when you have especially a larger team, sometimes decisions are made that, every not everybody might agree with, or maybe in some cases everybody does agree, but then you might ask your audience and you might gauge your reaction. It might be a little bit different. And I mean, I believe across all the polls that you've ran so far, there's been well over 100,000 votes between them all. Do you think that, like, you've got a list of other polls that you'd also like to put up to judge reaction, or?
Yeah, absolutely. We have some ideas. I think it's just like, and like, yeah, I would like to do more, and I will do more, and I want to stay active. I started to be much more active next couple of weeks ago, and I'm not gonna stop. I started that, and I will go forward. I mean, like, it happened. I explained the reasons for that, and like, of course, it takes more time, and I think it's worth it. Like, look, Vera, I mean, like, I believe strongly in that what we're doing is the right thing, and I like, just like I believe in, the freedom is very important,
Oh yeah,
and I
100%.
like, just like, look from the standpoint of players. I mean, so much of frustration, anger, people being upset, and if our company, by doing what we can help a little bit here, I'll be absolutely happy about that, and we'll continue doing that.
Yeah. And talking a little bit more about, the developers you have and the team you have, especially versus the market viability that you were mentioning. This is a question I had actually asked in one of my other interviews too, and I think it would be interesting maybe to get your opinion on it too. Do you feel that artistic vision and creativity are being stifled at all due to market demands?
No, I think that, like, there's a lot of room for creativity,
Yes.
absolutely, and you have to be creative, and your teams have to stay creative, and but there's, I mean, for as long as you're doing the right thing, and it's kind of like, people saying, like, you go in there, right, but then you can be a bit more on this side or a bit more this side, for as long as you're staying within the, like, tunnel of expectations, for the sake of a better phrase. I think that there is a lot of space for creativity. I mean, look, like, the teams are creating games, and you just, check and verify whether this is what really people want. And
Yeah.
most of the time, I see, yeah, that's what they want, because you also understand, your teams understand that. But sometimes there's something like, okay, this is not really what the audience wants, and you have to change that. So this is it, right? But at the end of the day, games are being creative products, and they will stay to be like that, especially games on, bigger platforms like, consoles and PC.
Yeah, and Lords of the Fallen, I've thoroughly enjoyed. I know plenty of people in my audience have as well. And I thought that it was a very well done game. I did years ago criticize the body type A and B, and I am somebody who obviously had voted in the polls, and I would much prefer to see male or female within games. But this is, it seems, a philosophy you guys are really set on. And I do commend you for that because, yeah, there were people criticizing you. Of course, like there always are going to be on the internet, people saying, oh, you're only doing this because you're chasing trends, which I do think is a little bit ridiculous because even months ago, you were voicing a similar sentiment. But I am very happy to see this. And I wonder for the next game, Lords of the Fallen 2026, I guess we'll just call it, or the sequel. I'm sure you can't give too much information on that because it is still a ways away, but I was wondering if there were any details that you could give us on potentially results of this poll. Like, are you going to do male and female in that too? Are you going to do a new string of polls when that it's time for that game to kind of come
No,
around?
we will have male and female. That's we already said that we committed to
Yeah.
that, and like we know this is the way players want, and we also want this way, and it's gonna be we're not basically like we're focusing on making a better game, but not necessarily a bigger game.
Yeah.
So we want to have more spectacular boss battles. We want to have more attractive visual side, more diverse uh, art direction. We want to have everything kind of feel more silky polished. We want to have more enhanced combat. We want to have a cooperative mode to be what really people want the cooperative mode be at its best, right? So we're pushing hard. We want to make, so I cannot promise like the game is still in development, right? And we
Well,
haven't said
right.
anything, right? So we
Yeah.
just talking today about that, right? And we will probably have some announcement this year. We will have, but we focus on making a better game, a game that people really appreciate playing, and and the game that will take a lot of lessons from a previous Lords of the Fallen, and like technically and performance wise, we will be testing that game like full scale testing way ahead. Already this year we'll start that. So like second part of this year, and so it's kind of like we're just taking very careful approach to make the best game we can, but not necessarily a bigger game than last year. I think that the scope of last year was already big enough, and like it's really focused on the quality rather than quantity.
Yeah, that's always as a player my focus is I love big, expansive, open world games. I love having these giant areas, but on the flip side, I would rather have a smaller, well-built area or experience versus it just being as expansive as possible, before instead of, you know, I don't want them to sacrifice the quality, I guess is what I'm saying. And that is a definitely a worry for a lot of gamers is, oh, we need to do more. It
Right,
needs to be bigger and better.
right. I don't believe that in our case. Like, look, I mean, we definitely want to be focused on the quality on making a better game and doing the best we can on that. And we'll see on the next one, in the future. But this is it. We just we're just about 160 people total. And we work with a number of different vendors, across different disciplines like art, but we're still not that big of a company to go into kind of like a mega production. Uh, we're not ready for that yet.
Yeah, no,
Mega
I
production, I mean mega production like big open world game.
yeah, completely. And over the past couple of days, you guys have been running some sales and promos and definitely riding the hype of everybody talking about the game right now, which I do think is really cool. And you had just posted, I believe this was yesterday, that the first 3 days of the Steam promo was crushing your high end forecast by 10%. Was that obviously, I'm sure, exciting to see? Were you hoping that this was going to happen? Or was it more like, wow, this is really cool that this response has turned into, people basically showing up to support, because at the end of the day, you are a company, and you are a company that wants to make money, and you do have your forecasts, but 10% up is really good.
Yeah, I think that we are a company that, like any other company, unless you are kind of like government owned, you're there to be on your own, and survive and go forward and grow. You have to make money. Simple as that, right? But like, I think it's we like, look, just coming from that side, when with everything what's been happening the last couple of weeks, I heard a lot of voices, don't do it, it's high risk, don't do it, you will, you will have problems with, these people, don't do it. So first, it's a good sign, and it's a relief that what we have done, and what it was all fine and right, and that was the right direction. It's just validation of what we were standing for. And yeah, I mean, the game is performing well, so super. We also had the promotion on PlayStation 5 that started a couple of weeks ago, and even ahead of the update of male female, and and it did also much better, like 30% better than what we expected, or 35% better than what we expected, because I think because what's been there out. So it's great appreciation from the standpoint of players showing their commitment, and you can see a lot of that in on X. So I'm absolutely, again, I'm very, very thankful for that support, and we'll do our best to keep going, and deliver to all of you guys, the best experiences from through our games.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to see this happening, and I know so many people are too. It is always hard, right, to tell when developers or creatives or CEOs, right, are just trying to gauge the waters when it comes to social trends or what is shifting within the industry now. But it does seem that you guys really are committed to the player first approach. It's like when you had announced the that first poll of male and female, I had even said to my audience, always be skeptical until they implement it. But you guys implemented it very quickly. I believe it was a week and a half later.
Correct. That was a week and a half later, and again, like, you know, uh, I mean, we wanted to show that we absolutely committed, that we are authentic in what we've been doing, right? And we're standing for, we're standing for making the best games, and look, there's a lot more outside of political and social agendas, like, to make better games, right? So in and validation, and feedback from players, and we've been doing extensive feedback to even Lords 23, as we call it, uh, last year, with different agencies, with different group of players. So like, a lot of what we know is not coming from the last two polls. It's just kind of a confirmation, a public confirmation that what we heard is basically there, and you have a bigger group that is participating that. So that just kind of like statistic accuracy of that is very high.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're absolutely very committed to do it, and we'll stay there. And I think, yeah, I mean, we'll be very happy to share more on the next Lords of the Fallen later this year.
Yeah, and that's obviously very cool. I love seeing the transparency. For Lords of the Fallen 2023, I know that you had just implemented that male and female patch, and there was other things along with it, but looking forward to the development cycle of the 2023 title, do you have a lot of updates still lined up? Or obviously, as we are getting closer to the release of the sequel, do you think that those are going to be winding down relatively soon?
So we have some more updates to come, obviously, up to V 2.0, and it's still enhancing, some enhancing controls, working on the co-op, and adding, bit more to co-op. I don't want to say what exactly it will be, but there are some meaningful things that we'll be adding to the game in the next pretty 2 3 months. So yeah, I think it's exciting, and I think definitely adding more to the game. So we'll be very happy to share the next update, 1.8, coming a couple of weeks. So yeah, I mean, I cannot say anything more now,
Well, right,
but
right.
yeah, but
Yeah.
we're absolutely excited to share as soon as it's out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really awesome. And obviously for the future of CI games, again, sure there's not a lot that you could tell us, but how many projects do you guys have in the works with other IPs, not just Lords of the Fallen?
I mean, look, we have working, we have Project H that's just working, like it's just uh, uh, work in progress name, obviously. It's a we cannot say much about that. That's another action
Yeah.
RPG game, but we cannot say much about it. And we have plans to the next Sniper Ghost Warrior. We cannot say anything about that as well. It's all very confidential. As soon as we
Yeah.
can, we'll be happy to share. But there's a lot going on our side, and and there's a lot of excitement about what we are doing internally. And I think yeah, I mean, looking forward to sharing more with you as soon as we can, but nothing now.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I understand that, but people want me to ask, and I'm a woman of the people, so I
yeah.
have to give them a little bit of something. I'm also curious too. I mean, I'm a fan of the company. I've played the games. I'm here. I'm a supporter. So I completely get that. There is a question from Bird Talk. Thank you so much for the 5. Can you explain your ideology for balancing fan input with creative vision? For example, would you make a poll, or you wouldn't make a poll to ask something like Lords of the Fallen should be a farming sim?
No, obviously I wouldn't make that poll because that poll wouldn't make sense, right? But
Yeah.
I think a post that from yesterday or 2 days ago, when like when I asked about like what are the top 3 things you really like the most over Lords of the Fallen from 2023, and you would want to take to the next Lords of the Fallen, and we have a great response. And like everything like that is helpful, but just to be clear, we don't design games just based on polls or
Well,
comments on
right.
X. That's just one of the source. One of the. But look, I think it's just like it's just dynamic, and I think it's absolutely moving us to the right direction to deliver games that people will be very keen to play, and they will be the most enjoyable games that we can deliver. So I'm really looking forward to that. And Vera, I just really want to say appreciate being here, and thank you again for the invite. I will have to go very very shortly. So
Cool.
if you have one more question, then go ahead.
Why don't you tell us basically whatever you want to? The floor is open if you want to tell us about anything specific or anything you're excited for the future. This is your time to talk. And by the way, guys, check out the pinned comment. Lords of the Fallen is in there. Go and check it out. Even if you don't buy it, at least give it a look. But I suggest buying it because it is good.
Right. So Vera, I think that I shared a lot today, and I think
Oh, yeah.
for us, we're standing for the players first. This is really the key here, and really kind of like embracing that idea that you want to have a super diverse and inclusive team, but at the same time you want to kind of like have a very strong, you know, direction on editorial is very independent from that,
Yes.
because you don't want to have editorial, with any of those agendas, right? I mean, you just want to make the best games, and I think this is really the core of everything what we do. And like you asked me about that before. I think that other companies, other developers will probably follow, whether they follow as as fully as we. I think some of them will, and I think it's just over time. And look, I think this is great to see the response from everyone in the last weeks, and I really appreciate that. And without that response, we wouldn't have that certainty to go for it. So yeah, I mean, that's all I can say for now. I'm really glad to be here. Really, thank you for the invite, and yeah, and soon over X and other channels.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here, guys. It will be linked in the description. I'm going to continue chatting for a few more minutes. So, of course, it was amazing to have you on, and you're always welcome back on the channel. But I'll be sure to send you a little bit of a message later just to say thank you again because I'm very polite like that. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Vera. Super. Thank you, everyone.
All
Super.
right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna stay around and chat for a few minutes. If you have any specific questions for me, let me know. Also, yes, Bilbo is here. Bilbo's a menace. Bilbo was not in here at first, and he snuck in right before right before the start. And I didn't even realize he was hiding under the Skyrim blanket. So that's fun. But yeah, I thought that that went really good. Thank you guys for your questions. I am going to read the few super chats that are here, just because obviously there a lot of them did not have to do with like the interview itself, but I'm gonna read the few that are here. Tyler, thank you for the 4.99. Thank you for the Lords of the Fallen. Bought July 24 and did 2 characters back to back. Look forward to the sequel. I will also make sure to screenshot these and send them all to him, so he and the team can have them. But yeah, I thought that it was a really great game. I ended up live streaming it. It was a really fun experience, and obviously you can see that via like the live streams that I did and the times that I talked about it. And lately I've been talking a lot more about the game itself just because there has been so many polls and of course the mainstream media melting down. Not that we ever really expected that to not happen. Like they freak out basically over everything. Grant, thank you so much for the 5. Hi Vera, just a thanks for your work. No problem. I do my best. I'm trying to do more interviews and have more discussions. And yeah, ultimately, I love being able to chat with people in the industry. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people who do not want to have discussions, but it is always really great to see so many people at least try, especially, CEOs of companies. It's not easy to talk about some certain topics on their end just because they don't want to give too much information, but hey, I'm trying, guys. And Jack, thank you for the 2. Great conversation. Hail the Dark Queen. Hail chat. Much appreciated. And minimal effort. Thank you for the 5 months. I have mixed feelings about the pivot to being anti-woke. It seems like a marketing tactic first and foremost. When DEI dies, it won't work again. The only thing that I will say to that is what I say about most companies is that, well, he had already established this several months ago. They were also, clearly leaning away from like the DEI direction. And Lords of the Fallen, the only thing that could have ever been classified as DEI was the body type A and B. And I have to say this a lot. Like Elden Ring's one of my favorite games of all time. It's got body type A and B. It doesn't kill an experience for me. But if it's one of the many problems, then yeah, I can definitely see why people would be very turned off by seeing that, or especially turned off by seeing that. But the thing is that if we don't, and this isn't just specifically towards you, minimal effort, thank you for the 5 months, but if companies see that the audience wants something different, I always think that it's better to give them a chance to change, because why would companies change if we are instantly saying, oh, we don't care if you change? That is something that obviously everyone's going to feel differently about, totally understandable. I like to give companies multiple chances, some too many. By the way, guys, we'll probably talk about this during tonight's stream, but apparently Starfield's getting sequel. Exactly what people want, may I add. Love having to talk about Starfield every time. But yeah, I do think that there is room for companies and creatives to change, and it is always hard to judge, right? Initially, when all of these polls had gone up, I had even said always be skeptical, but only a week and a half later they followed up with what they had promised, which I do think is commendable. It's not like they're just talking about wanting to make all of these changes, and then it doesn't end up happening. But that is not the case here, which I do think is really good. But yeah, if you guys have any specific questions for him still, let me know. I'll try to screenshot some of them and I can send them his way. Maybe he can answer them at a later time. But yeah, I'll probably only be streaming for a couple more minutes, guys. So if you have anything specific you'd like me to talk about regarding the interview and regarding Lords of the Fallen, let me know. But I thought that it went pretty well. I just wanted to give him the room and the space to discuss what he wanted and what's going on with the team and the development. And obviously, I think we all knew that we weren't going to get too much information in terms of the sequel that comes out in 2026 or anything, but hey, I still asked, okay? And that's what counts. What are you having for lunch, Vera? Probably nothing because I don't eat lunch. Not really. Starfield's garbage? Kind of true. Kind of true. Can you give us an interview rating? Like putting on your journal hat? Absolutely not. I'm not putting on the journal hat. Listen, I have to put on that journal hat when I rate games. I'm not rating interviews with the journal hat. I don't hate myself that much, guys. Come on. Ark, thank you so much for the 2. Hope these developers start to talk with the community. Yeah, and that's what they're doing with the polls, and I do think that that is really cool, and I'm really glad to see that the changes that were voted upon were implemented swiftly. It's not like it's taken months and months that have passed and we're wondering where those changes are. I don't know what he's up to. More developer interviews to make the former disgraced journalist. Oh no, to make her cope and see. She left Twitter. What can I say? Vera fears the power of the hat. I do. I don't want to wear the journo hat. I don't like the journo hat. It makes me feel a little bit too much like a journo. That yeah, that's a little bit triggering. Do you plan on streaming the updated Lords of the Fallen in the near future? So I had streamed it when it released, and because I did that, I would not stream it soon, but when we get closer to the 2026 sequel, I would stream it again. That's typically what I do if I enjoyed a game enough, and I would. Yeah. Not anytime soon, just because we are still far away from the release. But when we have a launch date for the sequel, I'd probably restream it. Yeah. It was a very fun game. I did thoroughly enjoy it. Now that you're officially a game journal, will you start sucking a game? What are you talking about? I don't even play games. If I'm a game journal. Oh, the mainstream media, huh, guys? Well, it is what it is. With that being said, I'm going to wrap up the stream in just a second. Thank you all so much for being here. I do appreciate it. Because it is a Tuesday tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, I will be live. Yeah, we'll go with 7. At 7 p.m. Eastern, I'll be live. I think that we're going to finish up Visions of Mana because we've only got one more stream of that. I do believe that that is the plan. I'm a professional streamer, guys. Don't forget it. And then on Thursday, the game of the year comes out. Hello Kitty. Can't wait. But yeah, I enjoyed this interview. I've been doing more interviews lately. And by the way, guys, when they are text-based interviews, when they are written, supporters get early access to them. It was like with the Lollipop Chainsaw Repop director, Yasuda. I did an interview with him about, I think it was almost 2 weeks ago now. I will be reposting that soon, but because that was text-based, I did end up posting it to supporters early. I'm trying to do many more interviews because I do thoroughly enjoy hearing the opinions of developers and creatives, ones that I would agree with, sometimes ones I wouldn't agree with. So if you enjoy this type of content, check out the links in the description. join the Discord, check out the Patreon, become a YouTube member, all of that fun stuff. But yeah, more of these in the future. I enjoy doing interviews. I love getting a chance to talk with people. And minimal effort. Thank you for the 5. You're totally right. We need to give people time and room to change. What I worry about is that it will become a gimmick to cover for subpar games. True. Luckily, though, again, just my opinion, Lords of the Fallen 2023 was not just like a bad game at all. It was really enjoyable. A really good Souls-esque experience. So it was already very good. Again, the body type A or B did not kill the experience for me. I did call it out when I was playing it, but I'm very happy to see that male and female are back in the game, maybe back in the industry. Maybe we can make it a fad again and we can actually see this become the norm and become the standard, which I would love. Yeah, Lords of the Fallen was good. It was challenging and it definitely scratched the Souls like itch, but it is on sale right now. Let me check the exact price. I believe it is right under 20. Yes. It's 19.79. I recommend picking it up, putting a bunch of time into it. I enjoyed it. But yeah, guys, with that being said, I'm going to wrap up the live stream here. Thank you all so much for being here today. I do appreciate it. Like I said, tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, I will be live. I will be streaming some video games and I will be posting about this on X later on, I am sure. But yeah, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for all of your donations and your support and your questions. And I will see you guys later. Have a fantastic rest of your day if I don't see you, everyone.